Niceness is often viewed as a virtue, something that's ingrained in us from a young age. We're taught to be kind, to be polite, to please others. But let me tell you something, being nice is not always the same as being wise. We've been conditioned to think that being nice is the way to get ahead in relationships, especially when it comes to the men in our lives. But there comes a time when you have to stop and ask yourself, am I being nice because I want to be, or am I being nice because I think I have to be? Being nice to men is not a bad thing in and of itself, but we must differentiate between kindness and people-pleasing. Kindness is a choice, it's genuine, and it comes from a place of love and respect. But when your niceness turns into a need to constantly seek approval or avoid conflict, that's where the problem begins. When you're only nice because you want to avoid confrontation or to keep someone from being upset, you're no longer standing in your power, you're standing in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being alone. That's the kind of fear that robs you of your voice and steals your authenticity. Over time, this pattern becomes a prison. It locks you in a cycle where you lose sight of what you want and need, always putting others before yourself. You might find yourself doing things you don't truly want to do, saying things you don't really mean, or allowing behaviors that you know are disrespectful simply because you don't want to rock the boat. You think if I'm just nice enough, if I just give a little more, maybe I'll get the love, the respect, the recognition I deserve. But let me tell you, this niceness will never be the foundation of a meaningful relationship. Respect, understanding, and mutual value, those are the things that last. Niceness often comes with an invisible price tag, a cost that we don't always see until it's too late. When you're always giving, always accommodating, always putting others' needs above your own, you start to lose touch with who you really are. Your desires, your voice, your dreams, they all begin to fade into the background, buried beneath the weight of trying to be what someone else needs you to be. This kind of self-sacrifice might seem noble, but in reality, it's a slow erosion of your self-worth. You begin to think that your value comes from what you can do for others, from how much you're willing to give, from how much you're willing to tolerate. But here's the truth, your worth is not defined by how much you can endure or how much you can please someone else. Your worth is intrinsic. It doesn't need to be earned by turning yourself into someone you're not. The sad reality is that when you're too nice, you often attract people who take advantage of that, people who see your kindness as weakness, who exploit your desire to please. You end up in relationships where you're constantly giving but never receiving. And even worse, when you start sacrificing your boundaries for the sake of peace, you begin to compromise your integrity. You might hold back from speaking your truth or keep your real feelings hidden because you don't want to upset anyone. But this is not a life lived in freedom. This is a life lived in captivity. Let me be clear, it's not about being rude, disrespectful, or unkind. We're not talking about throwing out love and kindness altogether. We're talking about finding the balance between kindness and self-respect. You don't have to shrink yourself down to make someone else feel comfortable. You don't have to dim your light to make others feel secure. Being nice is not about denying your needs or suppressing your truth. It's about having the strength to say, this is who I am, this is what I need, and I will not apologize for that. There is power in standing up for yourself. There is freedom in saying no when you mean no. There is liberation in walking away from situations that don't honor your worth. The moment you stop being nice to the point of losing yourself, you start reclaiming your identity. You begin to understand that your value is not dependent on the approval of others. Your value is rooted in the fact that you are uniquely you, and there's no one else like you in this world. So what does it look like to stop being nice to men? It looks like finding the courage to set boundaries. It looks like speaking your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It looks like walking away from situations that drain you, that disrespect you, or that don't align with your values. It looks like choosing yourself first without guilt or shame. It looks like being kind to others, but being kind to yourself first. It's time to stop being nice because you think you have to. It's time to start being kind, authentic, and true to who you are. When you do that, you'll find that the right people will respect you, appreciate you, and value you not because you're nice, but because you're real. And that, my friends, is the only way to build relationships that truly last. There is a power dynamic at play in every relationship, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. The way we interact with others, especially men, is often influenced by unspoken expectations that have been shaped by society, culture, and our upbringing. These expectations can create a subtle imbalance where one person, often the woman, feels the need to compromise, to accommodate, or to shrink in order to fit into the mold that has been placed on her. This isn't just about a difference in opinions or desires, it's about the power to define the relationship, the power to set the terms, and the power to decide what is acceptable and what is not. From the time we are young, women are often taught to be nurturing, to care for others, to be understanding, and to put the needs of others above our own. While these qualities are valuable in their own right, they can also set the stage for an unequal relationship dynamic if we're not careful. Society tells us that a woman's role is to be supportive, to be the one who holds it all together, to make sure that everyone else is okay, even at the expense of our own well-being. This expectation can create a subtle but powerful imbalance of power. When we are constantly in the position of giving, we begin to lose sight of our own power. We are conditioned to believe that being self-sacrificial is a noble act, that by putting others first, we are fulfilling our duty. But in reality, this behavior often leaves us feeling drained, depleted, and unappreciated. We give and give, hoping that our actions will be reciprocated, hoping that the love and care we pour out will come back to us. But instead, we often find ourselves in relationships where our needs go unmet, our boundaries are ignored, and our worth is measured by how much we can give. This dynamic is especially evident in relationships with men. We often find ourselves tiptoeing around their feelings, bending over backward to make sure they are comfortable, even at the cost of our own happiness. We're afraid of confrontation, afraid of upsetting them, afraid of what might happen if we speak up for ourselves. But here's the truth: when you constantly put someone else's needs ahead of your own, you are not building an equal, healthy relationship. You are creating a power imbalance that leaves you in a position of weakness. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be supportive, loving, or caring in your relationships. Of course you should. But the key is to do so from a place of strength, not from a place of fear. A relationship built on true equality is one where both partners are able to express their needs, their desires, and their boundaries without fear of judgment or rejection. It's a relationship where both people have an equal say in how things are done, where both voices are heard, and where both individuals are valued for who they truly are. When the power dynamic is skewed in favor of one person, especially when that person is a man, it creates a situation where the woman feels obligated to constantly please, to constantly give, and to constantly sacrifice her own needs in order to maintain the relationship. This is not love, it's a transactional exchange where one person's happiness is prioritized over the others. And when this happens, both people lose. A healthy relationship, however, is built on mutual respect and understanding. It's about recognizing that both partners have value, that both have something to bring to the table, and that both have the right to set boundaries and express their feelings. It's about recognizing that neither partner is superior to the other and that both deserve to be heard and valued. So how do we break free from this cycle? How do we stop allowing ourselves to be caught in a power imbalance that leaves us feeling small, unseen, and unheard? It starts with recognizing our own worth. It starts with understanding that we are not defined by how much we give, by how much we sacrifice, or by how much we accommodate others. We are defined by who we are at our core, by our values, our desires, and our sense of self. When we learn to stand firm in our own identity, we take back the power that has been stolen from us. We stop allowing ourselves to be manipulated by the expectations of others, and we start setting clear boundaries that honor our needs. We stop being afraid to speak our truth, to ask for what we want, and to say no when something doesn't align with our values. Breaking free from an unequal power dynamic also means recognizing that relationships should never be about one person's needs always coming first. A relationship where one partner constantly gives and the other constantly takes is not sustainable. It may seem like a way to keep the peace in the moment, but it will inevitably lead to resentment and burnout. The goal is not to please the other person at all costs, but to build a partnership where both people are able to thrive and grow. When we recognize the power dynamics at play in our relationships, we can begin to change them. We can start to speak up for ourselves, to express our needs, and to set boundaries that reflect our true worth. And when we do that, we open the door to relationships that are grounded in equality, respect, and mutual understanding. Relationships where both partners feel empowered to be their authentic selves, where both people are valued for who they are, and where both are committed to building something that honors each other's worth. The power to create change lies within each of us. It's time to stop allowing ourselves to be caught in the trap of inequality and instead step into the fullness of our own power. It's time to embrace relationships that lift us up, that honor our worth, and that allow us to stand strong in our own identity. Only then can we experience true, lasting love. People-pleasing is one of the most insidious traps that many of us fall into, often without realizing the cost it's taken on our lives. We convince ourselves that if we just do more, if we just say yes more often, if we just give a little bit more of ourselves, we will be loved, accepted, and valued. We want to be the one who is liked, the one who brings peace, the one who always says yes and never rocks the boat. But here's the truth, people-pleasing isn't love. It's a bargain that often costs us our self-worth, our time, our energy, and ultimately our happiness. You see, when you're constantly trying to please others, you're not living authentically. You're living for their approval, for their validation, for their comfort. You're not standing in your own truth. You're standing in their shadow, hoping to earn their approval like a child hoping for a gold star. It doesn't matter how much you give, how much you sacrifice, or how much you bend over backward to accommodate everyone else. It will never be enough. The cycle of people-pleasing leaves you empty, worn out, and unappreciated because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't keep giving without eventually running dry. And eventually you'll be left with nothing but frustration and resentment. People-pleasing might feel good in the short term. When you say yes, when you agree, when you avoid conflict, there's a temporary sense of relief. You avoid confrontation, you avoid discomfort, and for a moment everything feels calm. But that calm is fleeting. It's like putting a Band-Aid over a wound that needs real healing. You're avoiding the deeper issues, the truth that's waiting to be spoken, the emotions that need to be felt. Eventually, the pressure builds and the damage becomes too great to ignore. The emotional toll of people-pleasing is enormous. It chips away at your sense of self, it clouds your judgment, and it keeps you stuck in a cycle of approval seeking that only serves to drain your energy. You start to feel like you're not enough, like your worth is determined by how much you can do for others, how much you can give, and how little you ask for in return. The problem is that when you give so much of yourself away, there's nothing left for you. You lose sight of who you really are. You forget what you want, what you need, and what truly brings you joy. You become a reflection of everyone else's desires, and in doing so, you lose your own identity. This people-pleasing mentality also keeps us from setting healthy boundaries. When you're always trying to please, you find it difficult to say no because you're afraid of disappointing others. You fear rejection, fear the disapproval, fear the discomfort that comes when you assert yourself. But let me tell you something, boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are necessary. They are a sign of self-respect. They are a reflection of your understanding of your own worth. And when you don't set boundaries, you invite people to walk all over you, to take more than they give, and to treat you like you are nothing more than a servant to their needs. But when you start to say no, when you start to draw the line, when you start to choose yourself, you shift the power back into your hands, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. Another aspect of people pleasing is the emotional burden that comes with it. You're constantly carrying the weight of other people's expectations, constantly worrying about how they perceive you, constantly trying to live up to an unrealistic standard. This weight is heavy and it's exhausting. The more you try to meet everyone else's needs, the more you lose sight of your own. And the more you lose sight of yourself, the harder it becomes to make decisions that truly align with your purpose and your heart. The cost of people pleasing is not just emotional, it's physical too. Stress, anxiety, burnout, all of these are byproducts of constantly putting others before yourself. The toll it takes on your body is real. When you are always on the go, always saying yes, always trying to keep everyone happy, your body starts to break down. You lose sleep, your energy dips, and your health begins to suffer. And yet you keep pushing through because you believe that your value comes from how much you can do for others. But the truth is, your worth is not measured by how much you give. Your worth is intrinsic. It's in the way you love, the way you show up for yourself, and the way you honor your needs. Breaking free from the people-pleasing trap requires a shift in perspective. It requires recognizing that you are not here to be everyone's source of comfort. You are not here to meet everyone's needs at the expense of your own. You are here to live a life that is true to who you are, to walk in your purpose and to honor your worth. You cannot fulfill your purpose if you are constantly chasing after the approval of others. You cannot step into the fullness of your potential if you are constantly putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own. The first step in breaking free is to recognize the signs of people pleasing in your own life. Are you saying yes to things you don't want to do? Are you constantly worried about how others perceive you? Are you sacrificing your own needs for the comfort of others? If so, it's time to stop. It's time to start putting yourself first. It's time to start setting boundaries that protect your peace, that honor your needs, and that allow you to show up as your authentic self. It's also important to remember that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you wise. It makes you strong. It makes you strong. It makes you someone who values their own time, energy, and well-being. Saying no is a powerful act of self-love. It's a declaration that you are worthy of respect, worthy of love, worthy of having your needs met. You do not have to give in to the pressure to please everyone. You do not have to sacrifice your happiness to make others comfortable. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to choose yourself. When you stop people pleasing, you create space for real connections, for relationships that are grounded in mutual respect, for a life that is aligned with your true purpose. You start to attract people who value you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. You begin to build a life that is rich in authenticity, where you are free to be yourself and live according to your own values. So stop pleasing. Stop giving at the cost of your own soul. Start living for you. There comes a time in every woman's life where she must stop living under the false illusion that being the nice one, the quiet one, or the accommodating one is going to get her the love, respect, or fulfillment she deserves. The truth is that for too long, many women have conditioned themselves to believe that if they just keep their heads down, keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep saying yes, somehow, someday they will be rewarded. But let me tell you something, that day may never come. You have to stop waiting for external validation from the people around you, especially from men. You are not here to live to meet the expectations of others, and you will never find the fulfillment you're looking for if you keep measuring your worth by how much you're willing to give, how much you're willing to tolerate, or how much you're willing to tolerate, or how much you're willing to compromise. One of the most dangerous traps women fall into is the idea that being a good woman means being selfless to the point of self-neglect. You've been taught that your value lies in how much you can do for others, especially the men in your life. The expectation is that your desires, your dreams, your needs should always take a back seat to his. You've been socialized to believe that in order to keep the peace, in order to keep the relationship strong, you need to sacrifice yourself. You think that if you just give more, maybe he will love you more, respect you more, notice you more, but this is a lie. The more you sacrifice your own happiness for the sake of others, the more you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, you open the door for resentment, frustration, and disillusionment. The hard truth is that relationships are not about giving until you have nothing left to give. Relationships should be about balance, mutual respect, and shared value. But too often, women get caught up in a cycle where they are constantly giving, and receiving very little in return. The man in their life gets the benefit of their selflessness, but they never feel truly valued, heard, or seen. Over time, this imbalance creates a sense of emptiness because no matter how much you give, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And when your cup runs dry, when you've given everything you have to give, what do you have left for yourself? What I want you to understand is that your worth is not based on how much you can do for others. Your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice, how much you tolerate, or how much you keep quiet to avoid conflict. You are worthy simply because you are you. You are worthy because you have your own desires, dreams, and needs. You are worthy because you have your own voice, and that voice deserves to be heard. No one should ever make you feel like you have to silence yourself in order to make room for someone else. Now, I know that many of you may be thinking, but if I don't keep giving, if I don't keep accommodating, if I don't keep trying to make everyone else happy, won't they leave me? That's the lie we've been fed for so long. That if we stop pleasing, stop accommodating, and stop making everyone else happy, we'll lose them. But here's the truth: the people who truly love and value you, the people who respect you, will not leave because you set boundaries. They will not leave because you speak your truth, because you demand respect, because you know your worth. The ones who will leave are the ones who have been taken from you without giving anything in return. And let me tell you something: if they leave when you start valuing yourself, then they were never meant to be in your life in the first place. It's time to stop sacrificing your joy for the sake of keeping someone else's world in order. It's time to stop holding back your dreams, your desires, and your voice in the name of keeping the peace. The peace that is built on lies, on silence, on self-neglect is not true peace, it's just an illusion. It's time to stop pretending that everything is okay when it's not. It's time to stop accepting crumbs when you deserve the whole meal. You were not created to live a life of quiet desperation, hoping that one day someone will notice how much you've sacrificed and finally give you what you've been longing for. You were created to live fully, to express your truth, to be seen and heard for who you truly are. You deserve a love that lifts you up, not one that drags you down. Now, I know this is not easy. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to require strength, courage, and vulnerability. But the first step is recognizing that you are enough, just as you are. You do not have to change, shrink, or compromise yourself to earn love or respect. You do not have to give up your needs, your desires, or your truth for the sake of someone else. When you start standing in your power, when you start honoring your worth, you will attract people who value you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. It's time to stop waiting for someone else to validate you. It's time to stop looking for external confirmation that you are enough. You've always been enough. Your worth was established the moment you were born, and no amount of giving, pleasing, or sacrificing will ever change that. Your worth is not up for negotiation. Your worth is not defined by how much you can give, how much you can tolerate, or how much you can please others. Your worth is defined by your essence, by your presence, by your truth. So stop giving away pieces of yourself. Stop silencing your voice to make room for others. Stop sacrificing your joy for the comfort of someone else. You deserve more. You are worthy of love, respect, and everything you desire simply because you are you. The moment you realize this, the moment you stop waiting for others to tell you that you're enough, is the moment you begin to step into your true power. And when you step into your power, you will not only change your life, you will change the way others see you, respect you, and love you. It all begins with you. You are not here to live in the shadow of someone else's expectations. And yet so many women spend their lives doing just that. You've been told time and time again to be nice, to make others comfortable, to stay quiet when you're uncomfortable, to smile even when your heart is breaking. But let me tell you something. This is not the life you were meant to live. You were created for more than simply fitting into someone else's idea of what you should be. It's time for you to step into your own truth, to step into your own power, and to demand the respect, love, and appreciation that you deserve. It's time for you to stop living in fear of being too much. There is a pervasive lie in the world that women are supposed to shrink themselves down, suppress their desires, and diminish their light in order to make room for others. Society tells you that if you take up too much space, if you speak too loudly, if you demand too much, you're being too aggressive, too forward, too much. You're told that your opinions, your needs, and your desires should always come second to those around you, especially men. But this lie is robbing you of the life you were meant to live. You were not created to hide in the shadows. You were created to stand in the fullness of who you are, unapologetically. For too long, women have been conditioned to believe that if they are too bold, too assertive, too confident, they will be seen as difficult, bossy, or unattractive. And so many women shrink themselves, dim their light, and suppress their true selves in an effort to fit into the mold of what others want them to be. But what if I told you that the very thing you are trying to suppress, the boldness, the confidence, the power is the thing that will set you free? What if I told you that the world doesn't need you to be small? The world doesn't need you to hide your strength, your brilliance, your beauty. The world needs you to step up and show the world exactly who you are. This fear of being too much, or being too bold, or being too assertive is rooted in a deep fear of rejection, a fear that if you show up fully as yourself, you will be rejected or criticized. But here's the truth: when you stop holding yourself back, when you stop hiding, when you stop pretending to be something you're not in order to please others, you will begin to attract the people, the opportunities, and the relationships that are meant for you. The people who cannot handle your greatness, the people who cannot handle your confidence, are not the people you need in your life. They are not the ones who will lift you up. They are the ones who will hold you back. You were not created to live a life of fear, constantly walking on eggshells, worrying about how you will be perceived, constantly measuring yourself against the standards of others. You were not created to shrink back and dim your light in order to make others feel comfortable. You were created to shine, to speak your truth, to take up space. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have your voice heard. You are allowed to ask for what you need, to set boundaries, and to demand the respect that you deserve. There is power in owning your truth. There is power in standing tall and walking with confidence and speaking with authority. When you stop apologizing for who you are, when you stop trying to be something you're not, you open the door for the people who truly value you to come into your life. You stop wasting your time on relationships, whether they be personal or professional, that are built on false pretenses. You stop trying to make yourself smaller for the sake of others' comfort, and instead you start attracting the people who will support you, lift you up, and honor you for the woman that you are. It's important to recognize that this doesn't mean you should become selfish or inconsiderate. It doesn't mean that you should disregard the feelings and needs of others. What it means is that you need to stop putting everyone else's needs ahead of your own. You need to stop living your life for the approval of others. You need to stop sacrificing your dreams, your desires, and your peace of mind to make everyone else happy. When you step into your full power, you will find that you can still be loving, kind, and compassionate, but you will no longer compromise yourself in the process. When you start living authentically, when you start being true to who you are, you will experience a sense of freedom that you've never felt before. The chains of fear, self-doubt, and insecurity will begin to fall away. You will stop second-guessing yourself. You will stop seeking approval from people who do not have your best interests at heart. You will stop allowing others to define your worth. You will begin to define your own worth. You will begin to set the terms of your own life, your own relationships, and your own happiness. And let me tell you, this is not an easy process. It will challenge you. It will push you outside of your comfort zone. It will require you to let go of old beliefs, old patterns, and old behaviors that no longer serve you. But the reward is worth it. When you stop holding yourself back, when you stop apologizing for being too much, you will begin to see your life transform in ways you never thought possible. You will experience peace, fulfillment, and joy that comes from knowing that you are living your life on your own terms. So let me challenge you today. Stop apologizing for being too much. Stop dimming your light to make others feel comfortable. Stop hiding your power out of fear of rejection. Stand up, speak up. Take up space. And watch as your life begins to unfold in ways you never imagined. You are enough, you are worthy. You are allowed to take up space in this world, and you do not have to shrink yourself to make anyone else feel comfortable. The world needs the full version of you. And it's time for you to show up unapologetically and step into the greatness that is waiting for you. It's time to stop pretending that being nice is the key to happiness or success. For too long, women have been conditioned to believe that if they just keep their heads down, keep smiling, and keep saying yes, everything will work out. We've been told that being agreeable, quiet, and accommodating will get us the love, the attention, and the respect we desire. But let me tell you, this is a lie that has held so many women back for generations. The truth is, niceness alone will not get you what you deserve. Being nice is not a substitute for setting boundaries, asserting your needs, and demanding the respect you are worthy of. I want you to understand this niceness often comes at a great cost. For many women, it means sacrificing your own peace of mind, your own happiness, and your own self-worth just to keep the peace around you. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You stay quiet when you should speak up. And you say yes when your heart is screaming no. And why? Because somewhere along the way you were taught that being nice, being accommodating, being agreeable was the key to being loved, valued, and accepted. But this is not how it works. Being nice does not mean you will be respected. Being agreeable does not mean you will be loved. And saying yes does not mean you will be valued. I need you to stop fooling yourself into thinking that by pleasing others, you are doing the right thing for yourself. You can't keep pouring from an empty cup and expect it to be enough for everyone around you. You can't keep sacrificing your needs, your desires, and your well-being just to make everyone else comfortable. This is not selflessness, this is self-neglect. And no matter how much you try to give, no matter how much you try to accommodate, there will come a point when you have nothing left to give. When you have given away everything you have, when you've ignored your own needs for the sake of others, you will feel depleted, disconnected, and unfulfilled. And that is not the life you were meant to live. Niceness often stems from a deep-seated fear of rejection. Many women feel that if they aren't nice, if they aren't accommodating, if they don't put others first, they will be abandoned, unloved, or unworthy. But let me tell you, this fear should never be the foundation of your relationships or your life. Fear will lead you to compromise who you are, to silence your voice, to diminish your worth, all in an attempt to avoid discomfort. But true strength comes from embracing who you are unapologetically. True power comes from standing firm in your boundaries, even if it means disappointing someone else. Niceness may seem harmless, but it creates a breeding ground for manipulation. People can easily take advantage of your kindness when they know you're too afraid to say no. You become the person everyone relies on because they know you will never turn them down, even when it means hurting yourself. But let me ask you this, how long can you keep giving when you're not receiving? How long can you keep serving others when your own needs go unmet? The longer you stay in this pattern, the more resentful you will become. The more you sacrifice your own well-being, the more disillusioned and frustrated you will feel. And that frustration will manifest in anger, in bitterness, and in a sense of betrayal. I want you to understand something important. Saying no is not the end of the world. In fact, it's often the beginning of something better. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, when you say no to what drains you, you open the door for something greater. You make space for the relationships, opportunities, and experiences that are aligned with your true self. But in order to say no, you have to first know your worth. You have to know that you are deserving of respect, love, and care. You are not here to be a doormat for others. You are not here to live in constant fear of disappointing someone. You are here to live boldly, to embrace your power, and to stand firm in your beliefs. The world will try to tell you that being nice, being agreeable, and saying yes at all costs is the way to go. But the truth is, these behaviors only serve to diminish your value and compromise your happiness. You cannot continue to live your life based on the expectations of others. You cannot continue to shrink yourself, to silence your voice, and to ignore your own needs for the sake of making others comfortable. You were not created to live in the shadows. You were created to stand in the fullness of who you are, to speak your truth, and to demand the respect you deserve. It's time to stop believing that your worth is dependent on how much you can do for others. It's time to stop believing that niceness is a substitute for strength, for boundaries, for self-respect. The world doesn't need more nice women. The world needs more women who are willing to stand up for themselves, who are willing to set boundaries, and who are willing to speak their truth no matter how uncomfortable it may be. The world needs women who are not afraid to say no, to say enough is enough, to say that they are worthy of more than the scraps that others have been giving them. You are not here to be small. You are not here to make others feel comfortable at the expense of your own peace and well-being. You are here to live fully, to speak boldly, and to demand the life you deserve. It's time to stop being nice for the sake of others. It's time to start being true to yourself, to honor your worth, and to step into your power. The moment you stop trying to please everyone is the moment you start living the life you were meant to live. And when you do, you will find that the people who truly value you will respect your boundaries, honor your needs, and love you for the woman you are.